Blues Matters here again. We have in the studio, well, in America, the one and only Curtis Salgado. Where are you today?
I'm in Portland, Oregon. I'm in my man cave talking to Colin in Scotland, which is very exciting to me.
Indeed. Right, let's go way back. Why did you become a musician in the first place?
Well, I've said this story, so I'm head tripping with but I'd be happy to tell it to you again. My folks, and the strongest thing that I had in my family, my mother and my father, is Ellsworth Salgado and Hilda Salgado. I have an older brother, older sister as well, Wendy and Philip. I come from a very loving family, no denomination or stuff. My folks were not atheists, not like, we don't believe. It's just like church wasn't a part of my life in terms of going to it. I think the reason my mother took me to church was to get me out of her hair. And I come from Eugene, Oregon, which is a lumber town. It's a blue collar lumber town with a university in it. It's lumber town, blue collar workers, a university, and a strong hospital called Sacred Heart, and a good one. It's got a rep. And so I was born in Everett, Washington. And before I was one, as a newborn, I was moved to the same house that I lived in my whole life, 28 Roosevelt Boulevard, Eugene, Oregon, on the corner of Roosevelt and McKinley. And it was on the outskirts of town, and there was a railroad, huge complex across the street from me. And I was born in 1954. So Roosevelt, and I'll get to this, you asked me about music. And my folks, Roosevelt across the street, over there on the corner, and over there's a huge railroad yard. I'm kind of locked into this place, and you worked at the lumber yards, and it's very blue collar. My father was a baker, and my mother was a housewife. So there's the set. And I grew up in this with my folks were hip. They were hip to music. And since, I was born, when they were born, 1910 or something like that, what would come up to them would be swing music. Benny Goodman, Count Basie, Jimmy Lunsford, a little bit of, the Dorothy Miller, what's his name? Doesn't matter. Thomas Dorsey and those guys. But mostly my father was into piano. So Count Basie, Earl Father Hines, Fats Waller, all of those guys. And singers, Anita O'Day, Sarah Vaughan, Jimmy Rushing, Joe Williams. All of these cats just hit me. And my father would play. That was the music that was in the house when I was being raised and when I was coming up. And I ended up, of course, going to kindergarten. And when I was a little kid, and here's the story, a teacher pinned a note on my chest. I'm in kindergarten. And nowadays, there's so much split of couples and families, a lot more than there is back then. You did what your parents said. And this teacher leaned in and goes, make sure your mother gets this. And she pinned it onto my chest, on my shirt. And when I got home, my mother leans in and goes, what do you got here? Like that, And, oh, what's this? It says that Mrs. Person says you have a nice voice. And and she goes, says here, we're to learn the songs. I've been working on the railroad, and Jesus loves me. Yes, I know. Now, you do what your parents say. And the note said that. And my mom's, okay, let's get to work. And almost immediately, my mother could play piano. She was a good piano player and could read music. And so I don't remember her whipping out. This a long time ago, but I do remember her starting to play. And I'm singing, I've been working on the railroad. And Jesus loves me. Yes, I know. And we practiced it. Now, I have no idea what this is about, except I'm following directions. And I go back to school in kindergarten. And kindergarten has those, I don't know about you, but in America, most of it is like there are shelves. You put your blanket and pillow in, and it's nap time. And then you go over to this part, and they're teaching you. And part of it is that we'd line up and go to the auditorium. And you're at the auditorium, and I started working on Jesus Loves Me, Yes, I Know. But I got to insert here that I didn't know what this was about. I just did what I was told. And so they teamed me up with another boy. And now this kid's standing next to me, and we're both singing Jesus Loves Me, Yes, I Know. I've been working on the railroad. And then, you go about your time, and I don't know how much later, let's say a week or so, or the following weekend, I go at night, to an auditorium, church, and it's full of people. It's packed. It's the parents, of course. And I get up to do my thing, and the other boy stands next to me. And I start launching into, I've been working on the railroad, and I look over, and the kid next to me is frozen, and his eyes are wide open. I can still picture, I'm looking, he was taller, I'm looking up at him, and so I'm going, I've been working on, like, come on, join me here, and he's just frozen. And then Jesus Loves Me, Yes, I Know, like, well, come on, sing. The audience loved it, and they're laughing, and I got a standing ovation. The kid didn't sing a word. He was just stage fright, frozen. I don't remember his name. I didn't know his name then. They teamed us up, and he failed, and I sang through. And of course, you do what you're told, and I just let it out. So and I'm repeating, they all stood up and clapped and went, yeah, like that. And that hit me. The bug was hit. Now, back at home, I told you what my father was into. My mother could play. To cover all this is that there was a huge cable of connection. And I have an older brother and older sister, and we're going to go through all the older brother, older sister stuff with the dynamics of that. But there's this long connection, and its music is mostly what we talk about. Other things that are fun and other things that are chores, but basically music. And I can tell you one, I'll give you an example. I was in the Boy Scouts, and I went on a 50-mile hike. And after 50-mile, I'm dusty and whatever, and I was out there for 2 weeks in the wilderness with the Boy Scouts. And I come back, one of the best times I've ever had is back then. We did a lot of hiking. And I'm in Oregon. Oregon is like Scotland and England. It is green and rivers and mountains and volcanoes, you name it. You can catch salmon in the middle of Portland here. There's a river that runs through Portland, Oregon. It's called the Willamette. So anyway, I'm in the wilderness. So I come back home and take a shower, sit down at the dinner table, and I go, what's up? What's going on? What's new here since I've been gone? And they go, well, Ray Charles has a new song out, and it's called Let's Go Get Stoned. And, and then there's this band, and they're called the Trogs, and they're doing this wacky song called Wild Thing. Really? Yeah, well, listen to the radio, after it'll come on because they keep playing it. So why I'm telling you this is that's what it was like. And we talked about music. I remember my father, I'm sitting next to him, and I'm just, like, hi, Dad, what do you know? What? And he's listening intently to Count Basie. And he goes, shh, listen to how Count Basie uses space. And I remember him grabbing my leg, and he goes, listen to this. You hear that? Now, I don't know, 8, 9 years old and stuff, and he's not, he's not really talking to me, but he is, and it's just like, and I'll never forget it. He said, listen how he uses it. And that famous, Count plays piano, and then, it's just real lot of space and that kind of stuff. That stuck with me. And my father's listening to Anita O'Day and Gene Krupa. My brother wanted to be a drummer, and he wanted to be Gene Krupa. And man, this is feeding into me. It's what makes them excited, but it makes me excited as well because, you're listening to this music, and it just hits your auditory nerve. And that was it. And so that's what I got into. Following this, my mother was also like economics teacher. She was like, what do you call it when you learn how to cook and stuff? She was doing that. She was a school teacher as well, right? And before she married my father, but she would point out to me arts and music, what actors were, not what they were, but who they were, how good they were, that kind of a thing. So listen, I'm a little kid, and I'm listening about, this is Laurence Olivier, and that kind of stuff. This isn't I just learned the arts from them. And then my brother and sister, the same thing. They were bringing home, my brother later on was bringing home Robert Johnson record. I'll never forget that. The one with the drawing on the cover of it
Right.
before they discovered it, his photograph. That first record that came out during the folk era in America.
Mm.
So Pete Seeger, Peter, Paul and Mary, the Limeliners, the Kingston Trio, my brother brought those home. Plus, we have Benny Goodman and Count Basie and this and that, and that's it. I used to sneak up to my room and hide in the closet in the hallway so I could listen to what my brother was playing. So when I think about it, and when I think about this, and I have, is just like, that's the strongest connection. Well, we have a strong connection, but that's the fun thing we talk about. Who's this and who's that? And I mean, we were into it, the Smothers Brothers, the Flip Wilson Show, the Johnny Carson Show, blah, blah, this and that. They all had these great acts sooner or later on there. So here's another thing. My brother is reading, and he's going, it looks like the Rolling Stones or something. Howlin' Wolf is going to be playing on Shindig. And Shindig was a pop show that came out when the Beatles hit. Mm. Before that, like, a few years before the Beatles hit in the 60s, like 61, 62, had a show that was called Hullabaloo. And it was a folk show. On this Hullabaloo folk show and stuff would be the Limeliners, the Kingston Trio, Mary McCuba, Pete Seeger, Joan Baez. They're all on the television. And we would be glued to it. Music was the number. I think I've succeeded in telling you that's what it was. It was like, I was neck deep in it. And we were. And it was really the thing that it wasn't sports. It wasn't this. It's music that brought it through. And with that, my brother bringing home the records and Paul Butterfield. And I'm looking at the record going, who's Walter Jacobs? Who's McKinley Morganfield? My father taught me that. If you look under the song title, you'll see who the writer's on. And some of them abbreviated and stuff. But man, quick. You find out who these people are. So here's another key thing, and then this should answer your question. My sister brought me during Christmas a very important record, and it was Hate to See You Go. My brother was listening to Paul Butterfield, and then I started noticing that their same songs are on Hate to See You Go that are on, Mellow Down Easy, everything's going to be all right, that stuff. But once I heard Little Walter, that was it. And then Muddy Waters has got this harmonica player named Little Walter. My sister brought me home Hate to See You Go, Say Along, and those were two. A Johnny Winter movie, a Johnny Winter LP, and This Is for Christmas. And the following one, my sister brought me a Led Zeppelin record, and it was the second. I already had the first. And so just to tell you, I really love that record. I still do. But then when I started noticing that they were taking credit for songs, literally, I don't think they've redeemed themselves. But back then, I'm a kid and I'm looking at, hey, they didn't write, Bring It On Home to Me. I took that record and I threw it across the field that was in my backyard. I was just like, screw them. Literally, yeah. I didn't want to hear Led Zeppelin. And I was already by then, I was often running into Chicago blues, pre-war blues. Robert Johnson leads you into, Lightning Hopkins, which leads you into Mississippi Fred McDowell, which leads you into, Mississippi John Hurt. And I want to know what makes things tick. And so I know I'm going on here, but that's it. This is what I'm about. And I want everybody else to know it as well,
Yeah, no,
and so I'm not good. I'm a powerful reader. I read everything, so, that's just half of it. I've got the same thing going on you do. And over here's all my records behind me. This is what I do. And as time went on, I got into plays in high school. And I thought for a little while in high school, which is senior, junior, sophomore, junior, sorry. I started playing in plays. I did Company of Wayward Saints, Alice in Wonderland, The Crucible, Arsenic and Old Lace. Yeah. And I was thinking, but I didn't want to I didn't want to audition for parts. I just figured, hey, I'm good. I could do, and they were right. I realized, as I was in the process of acting in these plays, why they chose me to play who I played and what character. I had a very good teacher named Mr. Phillips who had studied for years. I don't know what that represents, but he spent some time with Marceau, the famous mime.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't just this, he was under his thing, and they traveled and played. That was the guy that took me under my wing about acting. And so I got a little bit of that and understand what blocking is. I got in, made, the whole thing. I fell into that. But music, and then like all of us, if you're a musician, you start jamming or joining. And I started sitting in, and my mother brought me home, and then I'll stop. My sister gets me a little Walter record for Christmas, and my mother got me a harmonica and a harmonica book, How to Play Blues Harmonica by Tony Little Son Glover. And the thing that's key into this is that I took up guitar, and I had a guitar teacher who would kick me in the shin if I wasn't paying attention or getting it right. So it was like, okay, so you make a barcode like this, and he goes, hey, boom, and he would kick me. His name was Gary Beck. He's no longer living, so I can say his name. Gary Beck. He was the badass jazz guitar player in Eugene, Oregon, and I took lessons, and it was like, watch me, boom, he'd kick me. Ow, pay attention. That's what it was. So I went home and told my mother, Gary's like, he hauls off and hits me if and then a week or so later, my mother brings me How to Play Blues Harmonicas because she knows I'm listening to Paul Butterfield and Little Walter. The rest is, I want to play music. I don't want to do hard labor, which I've done, and it turns out playing music is hard labor anyway. There it is. There's my story. It was a great interview. Thank you.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. First time on stage then, how did you feel?
First time on stage?
Yeah, when you're a wee boy with that other boy not singing a note.
Well, I'm a little confused with this question, but I already told you I got a standing ovation when I was a wee boy in kindergarten. And all that validation hit me hard. And I'm not going to lie. You may think I was too young to even know, as I said, man, I was the center of attention. And did that make me an egomaniac? And that's what I got. But I just, I stuck with it. I'll take this a little further. And then when I was in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth grade, I was the one they pushed out during the Christmas time. Christmas time is big for songs. And so, you're filling up the auditorium with people, and the choir is doing all of these, Christmas songs we hear every Christmas, Silver Bells, and,
Yeah.
Anyway, if there was a solo to be had, it would be me they pushed out. So I was standing in the auditorium singing, Oh, the angels roll the stone away, that kind of stuff. So, oh, the angels roll the stone away. That, and then I'd come on. Oh, it was on that Easter, that's it. So I've been doing it since I was a little kid. But then things got hip. Is what I'm saying. Is like I was drawn to, of course. It don't mean a thing unless it's got that swing. And I think that's what hits you is just like this feels cool. This feels good. And then you're learning about the soloists and what's happening. There's a couple of key moments, I'll say, and you asked me what it felt like. It feels the same then as it does today. I'm up on stage. I'm on stage. I get in a zone. I'm in the zone. Close my eye. I can go any direction. So, but it feels the same as it does today, man. I'm out to put 100% in.
So where did you learn your stagecraft?
Where did I learn my stagecraft?
Yeah. How can you read a room and things like that? I
think it takes over the years, starting with, a lot of what I've just told you. I'm telling you when I learned my stagecraft. I took acting lessons in high school. I wanted to be this. And you learn about blocking. If you have the power of deduction and you're looking at some other acts or a play or television, you see the blocking. You see I mean, it's a class. You see someone who takes command and how they do it. Let's bring it up forward. You see Mick Jagger run across the stage. He exercises. He's in shape. He gets in shape for the tours. Oh, they all do. You're in a big stage in an auditorium and you're at that level. You can't just sit there in the middle. I think if you want to generate some excitement and give the fans what they want, you better run from one side to the other. And no matter how goofy you dance, you just put it out. So you learn your stagecraft by watching the people perform after you and before you and visualize. You go see concerts. I just went and saw Ronnie Baker Brooks, and we are friends.
Yeah.
And every time I see him, man, he's like having a good meal. And I mean, he's a remarkable person and an artist. And he comes from royalty. I mean, I grew up, but I have some pretty formidable years standing next to Robert Cray, right? And Robert, he's pretty shy. He's laid back. But Robert is in it. He's in it. When he plays, he is focused in what he plays and does. And by the way, just to brag about Robert, he is fully realized when I met him, fully realized. He played guitar, but for you guitar players, if you got any on the show or whatever, man, you're looking at, I was 19, he was 19 when I met him, and I was 19. But you couldn't pin his influence. And it's not like he did it on purpose or covered it up. He just played, but you couldn't pinpoint. When I first saw Stevie Ray Vaughan, you could hear his influences. There's Bert Sumlin, there's B.B. King, there's Albert King, of course, and this and that. And then all these rockabilly influences you could see going, and he knew them all. And we were on the road with Stevie Ray Vaughan, the Robert Cray Band, with Stevie Ray before Stevie Ray was Stevie Ray. We're 78, 79 in that era. Before he came out with, what's the name of that? Never mind. What was his first record called? It's the name of it. Texas Flood. So Robert totally realized. You couldn't pinpoint him. He's still, to me, there's nobody like him. He's in a category on his own. When he plays, you don't really expect what he's playing. It's just coming out of here, coming out of his heart. And so that's how I learned. That's what you do. And I learned. I'm competitive, but at the same time, man, I know how good I'm not. That you put together, you got your moment, you're up there, people have paid, people are there, they got babysitters, they got this and this and this. You better do something, So that's what I do. I work on my craft.
What's the best advice you've had in your career?
One of the best things I heard was from a friend of mine named Steve Miller, and he's had a handful of hits and is a rock star very smart person and been playing music since he was like 12, at fraternities and sororities in Dallas, Texas. And I was complaining to him about band members who were bitching and, pissing and moaning about shit and this and that. And he goes, you know what, Curtis? He says, you're paying them to follow your dream. So you got to treat them right. If somebody wants a grand piano and they want to shove it into the van, then by God, try and make that happen. And that's my thing. He didn't say that, but he said, you know what? You're asking these guys to follow your dream and you're paying them to it. So that's it. There's more to it than that, but that's one of the smartest things he said. When you're doing a band and you're a band leader, you don't belittle the other musicians in front of other musicians or people. You pull them aside and say nicely, could you try? You don't tell a guitar player, man, you suck. Why don't you play like this person? And I know band leaders and guys that are frontmen that do this to their band. I don't see it a lot anymore, but I sure have in the past. Mm-hmm. And it's music. It's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be fun and you work out the puzzle and you work how to arrange and you work, and that's what I'm about. And then you treat your bandmates the best as you can if you're the one who's paying them. You don't belittle people in front of your bandmates. You shouldn't do that in the workplace.
No.
Pull them aside and say, look, I could, and put it civilly, with a civil attitude.
Absolutely.
Steve Miller.
Absolutely.
That's from Steve Miller.
Keep on rocking me, baby.
Yeah, baby, baby, baby.
Baby, baby. What would you say was your proudest moment?
My proudest moment? That's a good question. Never really thought of it. I have great moments. Do you mean proud of myself because I did that, or that's a little pretentious. What would be? That's a hard question, Colin. What is my proudest moment? Probably the next one.
Right.
Because it's not winning awards. That would be something. This is, if I won a Grammy, that would be so cool. But someone out there deserves it just as much or more than you do, and it's a popularity contest and stuff, so I don't think awards would be it. Maybe the validation and love that I get from friends and fans, my family. They're like, that makes you good. People need to be validated, and when you get validated, you take it and be thankful for it, because it's better than money. To have people show up, so I don't really think, maybe I'll answer this. I don't really think about it. I've never thought of this is my proudest moment. I don't think like that. Like, I'm proud to be talking to you. You're in Scotland. You've got a reputation. This is an honor. So let's make today one of my proudest moments. How's that?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me. Right, let's get up to date. Let's talk about the new album.
All right.
Yeah.
Bingo.
There we go.
Well, would you, as you can see, I'm chatty Cathy.
Yeah.
And what you ask me a question, I'll lay it on you and go on for hours.
Talk about the production.
Talk about what?
The production of the...
Oh, right. What it took to produce it was, I'll just tell you the story.
Okay.
And I want your opinion as well to see if I'm right.
Right.
When I got into the game of records and trying to get your stuff on the radio and all that and get it played and heard, man, I thought it would be easy, and I could sell 1 million records. Blah, blah, blah. No, you can't. That's hard to do. You got to have a lot of things in place. So by the time when I made my first record, it was from a patron of the arts, money-wise, and he liked what I did. Almost every record I've made and I've paid back is from patron of the arts with help financially. They see what I'm doing. They believe in what I do. I believe in them for believing in me, and because I haven't been, they're honest, good people. And that is what kept me going. The Beatles came out with a song, I get by with a little help from my friends. That's my picture. That's me. I get by with a little help from my friends. So did Beethoven. So it is the patron of the arts. So production-wise, you got to come up with it. And for this particular record, we'll use that and we'll focus on that. Right. I was playing at a place called the Triple Door in Seattle, and a guy came up named Randy Mag. I didn't know his name at the time, and he's on stage, and we're tearing down. It's the end of the show. People have already filed out of the Triple Door, which is a showcase room. Holds about 500, and it's really nice. So everybody's filed out, and this guy comes up on stage and says, have you ever thought about making a live record? And I said, oh yeah, I have and stuff. And then he said, I'm really into your music, and I would help you. I will help you do this. I'll pay for it. And I'm like, too good to be true. And he went on, I don't want anything. I don't want any glory. I don't want this. I don't want to take a piece of the pie. I will see what I can do. If I just want to try and see if you'd be into it, and I can help finance it. And I said, bingo, you're on. Now we're going to change story a little bit. So I had a manager, and he's been with me for 30 years. And he's got his, at the time, the rules are, you don't make live records. If you want to get played on the radio, it's harder to play your live record. Now, that was back in the day. And when I say back in the day, for your listeners, don't get the image wrong. It's just like this was just a decade ago or so, before we were, digitized, I don't know what that word means, so don't. And so before we went digital, before everything went stream, before everything went that way, it was hard to get a live record played on radio. Would you agree with it?
Yeah, I totally agree.
And the reasons being that maybe the song runs over time allowed. They only want 3 or 4 minutes, and this and the talking and the audience noise. Let's just get rid of that and stuff. But records that were live got played on the radio, and they have been played on the radio. Cheap Trick is one of them. Peter Frampton is another hit. Joe Cocker. I don't know how much Joe Cocker's English, Mad Dogs and Englishmen, got on a chart, but I know he was played on FM radio. FM kind of opened up things. But long story short, they're just the industry for some reason, and nobody can tell me why, except for the ones I mentioned. They're not really favorable to live records. And so let's go back to the Randy Mag. I told Randy Mag, it's kind of hard, but man, I'd love to make a live record. I brought this news to my manager, who said, it's the same thing, basically. And also, he was saying, you're not playing enough of the new record in your show right now to merit making a live record. And I disagreed with him. I said, I have 6 songs from the new record in the live show, in what I do on stage. But anyhow, he's my manager, and it's just like, he's not rolling with it. And so, that got off the board, wiped that out. Then a couple of years later, after my manager and I parted ways, the same guy sent me a text and said, "Hi, this is Randy Mag. Would you like to do a live record?" And he didn't know that I had left my manager. And I said, "Yes, let's do this." And the thing is, folks out there, is that may be true, but this is a new world. This is like, do you really even need a manager? Unless he makes it rain, unless he's got connections, and unless he's got the financials, to manage somebody and step by step and go, that's really, there's a patron of the arts. And unless he's got a track record, right? So for me, I just needed to do it on my own and not worry about the bottom line, the bottom line of this, and you've got to make this and whatever. It's just like, I want to make my movie. I want to make my music movie. I want to make my music. And it's not that I don't want to be told what to do. You need other people. You need someone to help produce, to be the second ear, but someone you trust, someone you admire, someone who's music. And so the production of this record with Randy Mag was, we set about making a battle plan, how we're going to do it, and that's why this record came out. I've always wanted to make one, so by God, I'm going to make one. And I still hear the same thing: radio isn't going to play it, and this and that, But in this day and age, with streaming, with Spotify, with this and this and this, it's just like, music is free. It's free. It changes everything. It's like, so I'm my own producer, director, promoter, poster man, digital Facebook. I'm somebody, try to get likes and this and that. I'm so not that person, but you have to do it, And now with AI, I'm wandering off here, so I'll stick to your next question. But to production of this, so to focus on this new record, what would you like to know? And so that's how it came about.
Right. And getting the...
I've got the album in my hand right now.
Okay,
here.
excellent.
So, as I told you in the first part of the interview, is I met a man named Randy Mag, who's a big fan, and he financed it. So we set about producing it in terms of doing one show, a matinee and an evening show, on one day, a Saturday in Seattle, Washington. And I chose the songs then before about doing songs that I haven't done in 20 years or more are no longer in the set list. So most of them. One of them, the very first song, is called, which won't be on the LP, but which will be on the CD. I learned that if you make an LP vinyl, that because of the analog going to, or digital, whatever, it won't hold all the information And so I had to take out 2 or 3 songs. So the vinyl has, and I'll tell you, 1, 2, 3, has 5 songs on side 2, 4 songs on side 1, and which means it's missing 2 songs from the CD. But I think of the message I want to put, and the first song I chose was "Sing My Song," and I do believe that could be on "Wiggle Out of This." And it's just "Sing My Song for You," and I thought I'd open the show because naturally I'm going to sing my song for you. And we just went through bang, 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 just one song, did the entire album, and then took an intermission, moved the crowd out, brought in a new crowd, asked those from the first one who want to stay, and then ran show 2. 2 shows in one night, 2 90-minute sets. And then I just picked the songs. I picked "Sing My Song for You" was the opening, and let's see what else I have. I don't have a CD. I don't have a CD of this. It's not even released yet. "Clean Getaway" is one of them. "My Girlfriend" is one of them. "I Don't Want to Discuss It" by Little Richard. "Precious Time," it's a song I wrote. "Money Must Think I'm Dead," "Sweet Jesus," "Buddha the Doctor." There's a couple missing there, I think. Oh yeah, one called "The Count of Three" is not on the album, but it is on the CD. So they're original songs. Exactly, if you want to be more precise, if you're looking for, that's just it. We just ran a 90-minute set down, and I picked the songs that I haven't played on stage. I have over 80 songs in my songbook, recorded and out and in circulation. And I picked the ones because you make a new record, you have to focus on songs from that record to play in your current show so that it'll entice people to come to the merch table. Exactly. So I'm pushing my product, and then you go, and we're going to do this song. And by the way, it's on the merch table. That's it. Or you can find, that's how it is these days. We are rolling record stores. So songs like "I Sing My Song for You," "Clean Getaway," "Wiggle Out of This," I haven't done in a long time.
Right.
And right now on the internet and on YouTube and Instagram, I'm advertising the new record, and which you can buy from the internet or you can get off the merch table, or which we're setting up. It's not going to be released until April. So we've still got a little bit of work to do, but you can see "Wiggle Out of This" live and in person on the internet. And that's a song that will not be on the vinyl, but will be in a CD. But it's a song I wrote with a great piano player here. And actually, he wrote the song. And, I get a little bit of credit because I was there. So, just the presence of, but it's Peter Bow's song. It's brilliant. "Wiggle Out of This." Peter is a great jazz piano player period, and a songwriter. And he was with Robert Cray. And, but we've been friends for years, and he joined Robert Cray when I was in the band, and then Robert and I parted ways, and whatever, still friends. I haven't done "Wiggle Out of This" in, I don't know, 20 years on stage. Yeah. And that's because other songs take their place. The show is about current, So everything that's on the Legacy rerun is songs I don't do a lot anymore, except for part 2 of the show, like 20 Years of B.B. King. That's one of them I do probably every night. And a couple others, no, they didn't make the record because there wasn't room.
Could you talk about 20 Years of B.B. King? Because I just talked to producer J.J. Blair, who had produced Mike Finnegan.
Yes.
New album, with a version of your song on that. How did the song come about?
I have a songwriting partner named David Duncan, and we toss back and forth all the time. And we have a pile of tunes right now as I speak. And the next record that comes out will have some David Duncan, Curtis Salgado songs, or Curtis Salgado, Dave Duncan songs. So whether you care or not, whoever comes up with the hook gets the, and he came up with the hook, BB King, 20 years of BB King. And we wrote it over the phone and then got together in Nashville and put the form together. And then I got with the Phantom Blues Band and brought them to them. And by form, I don't mean bass, drums, this and that. I just mean guitar, chords, the lyrics. And that's how it comes. And then you can bring it to a band like the Phantom Blues Band and go, here's what I'm after. And that's part of producing, is hiring the right people. If you're a producer and you hire musicians that know the studio and know when to hold, know when to, put together, know when to leave space for other instruments. And what you do is just work on the rhythm section, therefore giving it a live feel. I mean, it's, people go, yeah, I want to see you live. Yeah, studio is live unless you're absolutely starting at the bottom and stacking on top. Today I did a bass. Tomorrow the drums will come in. We play live in the studio. And, so that's 2 keyboards, bass, drums, and guitar. Boom. Once you have that, you can add on the sweetening. So David and I are on the phone and he's got this title. And I said to him, we should put lyrics in the song that reference BB King songs. And he thought that was cool. And we just started working with the lyrics. And, so there is something like 8 or 9 BB King songs mentioned in the song. And David and I worked where he just goes like this and he comes up and then we just go back and forth. And that's for me, that's cool. He's a bona fide songwriter. I'm trying to be a bona fide songwriter. But, I've got ideas and songs and this and that, but I need a piano player or a guitar player. And David Duncan is a guitar player and he's a good guitar player. So we come up with a form. Then when you hire the musicians, Michael Finnegan, Larry Fulcher, Tony Bronigal, John Cleary is on there. Michael Finnegan and John Cleary. And Johnny Lee Shell. When you're dealing with those guys who've done so much stuff and played with everybody, everybody from Jimi Hendrix to Joe Cocker to Bonnie Raitt to on and on and on. And they really know the studio. The studio is a whole other monster, You can hear all the warts and you can hear all the, you're flat, you got to be on point. Well, I give them the form and David flew in from Nashville to help. And we just give those guys the stuff and you just kind of hammer it out. And you don't want to do it in more than 3 takes. You want, if you go on and on, it kind of loses its energy and stuff and whatever. You come back to it the next day. But like I would say 20 years of BB King, we probably did 3 runs on it and stopped it, go back, fix this and that. And I'm singing scratch vocals. And the lyrics are me, and the form is me and David Duncan, or David Duncan and I gotta be. And it's nice to be. I don't like going me. And we wrote a good song, man. That's a great song. And Michael Finn, he does the hell out of it, Michael always liked it. And that was an honor. And for you listeners out there, Michael Finnegan I'll just call him, he was the baddest man in the room, You can watch him on video with Bonnie Raitt, and Bonnie lets him take a song because she knows he's not gonna. And he's just remarkable. He's a great, amazing singer. And, I was told by his wife, Candy, that he didn't really write songs with people, that he liked me. So that's kind of like, so we wrote 6 songs together. He, write them. I'd have him come in and he'd help me with the bridge or just a couple of songs. He just wrote all the music and I just put lyrics to it. And one of my major heroes, and I miss him greatly, Michael Finnegan. So J.J. Blair, story of him, he loves Michael Finnegan as well. Michael's a legend in the world of LA studio. And like he's on a Jimi Hendrix, but he's played with everybody. And he is a golden singer and an amazing Hammond B3 keyboard player. So that said, J.J. Blair was trying to talk him into a record for years. J.J. probably told you this.
Yeah.
And finally, he crumbled and said, hey. And meanwhile, unfortunately, cancer appeared. And yeah, like everybody, I'm not a big Cancer fan.
No.
And no. So
no.
It's just, he's a remarkable person. That's what I'm saying. So that's how 20 years came. Wrote it over the phone. David comes in. We take the form of the song and the lyrics and go in, and then you hire the best side men, studio men, not just, these guys are all stars to me. I am a sideman groupie, not sexually, but I'm a sideman fan. I am a big fan. I want to know what makes it cook. I want to know who's that playing? Who's that? I want to know the whole lineup. And so I'm just really into every aspect of music and how it's made.
And what about the lineup for the album? You've got like, how many are on the stage at one time?
For my record? 15 people. Yeah. So, I hired Portland musicians. All of them are great, and all of them have played with me for years. Couple of newbies in there, a guy named Brady Goss, killer keyboard player. My earlier stuff is I have a lot of stuff that kind of leans into hardcore R&B or funk. And then I kept my own band for some of the songs, like I do 20 Years of B.B. King. I do an O.V. Wright song, and that I've been playing currently. So the Count of Three is kind of a current song. I always do Born All Over by O.V. Wright, but I didn't keep it. I didn't think it was good enough. So I hired my current rhythm section and band, keyboard, my current band, and then I put together a band that does all contemporary R&B hits like Earth, Wind and Fire, Tower of Power, etc. So that's where the horns come from. And they're all horns on all of my records anyway.
Yeah.
So there's a great group of guys here in Portland. So that was just it. I had part one with bass player and drummer in the horn section, and kept the horn section, removed the drummer and the bass player, and then brought my own band's drummer and bass player for the second half of the show, which was playing I Don't Want to Discuss It, which is an old Little Richard song written by, Little Richard song written by Larry Williams and what's his name? Larry and Johnny Guitar Watson. It was a production. I Don't Want to Discuss It was also covered by Delaney and Bonnie. What else on there? All this right here, man. My Girlfriend, Sweet Jesus, Buddha the Doctor, Money Must Think I'm Dead, Clean Getaway. That's all the first section with a band that's in town called Soul Vaccination. And they do all funk and soul and R&B, from the Gap Band and they kill it. They got great singing. And then the next, Precious Time, Nobody But You. That's an O.V. Wright. Precious Time is a song I wrote that's kind of like a Tom Petty song or something, and I don't think I'm going to write a song.
Yeah.
I just let it develop, but that's the only way. 20 Years of B.B. King, A Woman or the Blues. And do you have this record?
I do indeed, and I have heard it. And I think it's absolutely wonderful.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear you say that.
There you go. It's just, you put the headphones on, you hear this instrument, that instrument's coming through. There's funk, there's blues, there's soul, there's all kinds of things. I mean, was that a message? Was it a theme going through?
Is there a theme going through it?
Yeah.
I always hear that, and I guess that's what music critics and music scholars want to always know. You got to have something that ties it all together. To me, and what tied it together is songs that I just haven't played in years. But I do look at it, and you do think about the pacing and the sequencing.
Yeah.
You don't want to put this here and this and that, and I do my best. But basically, to me, using, somebody wants this singular piece of art musically. I like songs. So when somebody does a compilation of songs, I mean, my music taste is, I love Hank Williams and I love Buckethead, I like Sam Cooke and I like Billie Eilish, she's a great songwriter, great singer, and her and her brother. Yeah, I like it all. So to me, is there something? No, this is a live show. And when I got there, I didn't know if I had a piece of crap or not. I mean, I was nervous. I got into it, but at the start of it, it was a little nervous and stuff. The band was louder than 7 Mardi Gras Indians. It was just like loud, and you got a horn section and this and that. I learned some lessons. I should have put the background singers in the back so they didn't bleed into the microphones. But this is leading up to Sandy Sullivan, who is a recording engineer, who is like at the age of 18, he was with Capitol Towers. And he's a remarkable engineer. And now he's doing rap and stuff with Dr. Dre and Beyonce and all this stuff. And somehow I'm lucky enough to have him as a friend. And I have a mentor friend of mine who was in a band called Pleasure, and he is a funk guitar player, stuff like that. He has played with Pleasure and the Dazz Band and Charlie Wilson. So that's where I learned my stuff,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Would you give me a theme that this song is? To me, it's live. That's it.
It's live. It's music at the end of the day. I don't think there's a theme going through it at all, but I think it's loud when it should be loud. It's soft when it should be soft.
It's not necessarily a blues record, but it is a rhythm and blues record.
Indeed.
And, people think rhythm and blues. I think I don't know, but I'm under the impression that rhythm and blues, they hear the word blues and that's what it is. Rhythm and blues, contemporary, is Beyonce, is rap, is hip hop, and it's in that category. And then when you go over to pop and you have your crossover artists now. So for me, this is a solid, funky rhythm and blues record. Rock and roll and rhythm and blues. That's it.
And what about the future? What tours have you got? Are you coming over to UK, Europe at all?
Yes, very soon, as a matter of fact. I leave hold on a second. I'm coming to Scotland, I hope, in November.
I hope so.
God, I would love that. I would just go crazy for that.
Look forward to having you, Curtis.
Oh, man, I can't wait to sit in a pub in Scotland. So I hope this happens. And I got to get my history together. I'm going to be asking a lot of questions anyhow. So Giles Robson has come into my life, and he is a sweetheart and a very nice man, very smart, very soulful. And I'm taking off on the 17th for the Netherlands, and with a guy who is a promoter, great harp player named Thomas Toussaint. And have you heard of him?
No.
Yeah. So we're playing in the Netherlands, and I'm leaving on the 17th, Tuesday on Monday. And I'm playing with a cat who's come into my life in 2015, who takes me to Europe. His name is Fabrice Bessoit, a French drummer. And he's also got a little boutique kind of agency, and he takes a handful of us and brings us over there.
Great.
Fabrice has brought me to Europe. I couldn't get arrested. I was seeing all my peers like Robert Cray and people in the blues, Robert Cray and all the blues guys, Syl Johnson, Ronnie Brooks, blah, 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 blah. But I wasn't getting any interest at all until Fabrice came into my life. And he started bringing me over, and I'd like to think I'm building a name over there. So I've been playing France and Italy. And in Italy, I met a group of guys that are killer. And I play in Italy when I can, and they back me up, and they know the material. And in this modern day, I can take, because of this right here, I just send them the material, and by God, damn it, they learn it, man. And they learn it, and they can play. Can I give you a little European thumbs up thing? I have a friend of mine, and he's in a band, and that tours Europe a lot. And we used to talk about, I hadn't been to Europe yet, but he used to say, man, they don't quite have it. They can't do a shuffle, like a straight 4 on the floor, just a shuffle. And the nuances of Chicago blues and this and that. Back in the days when you have Alex Corner and all these kind of guys, blah, blah, blah. But we used to talk about, and then, man, European, like the guys who play blues and R&B and soul in Europe, can play. And they're getting the feel of it. they're not getting it, they have it. And there's so many great bands now in Europe that, to me, are playing American music on point. You know, it's on point. I see it in the Philippines as well, but it's just like, it's interesting.
All over the world.
Yeah, all over the world, how
All over the
R&B
world.
is done like. I mean, back in the 70s and stuff, and early 80s, a drummer would play a shuffle as if he was playing in a heavy metal band. They never did a Fred Belo, S.P. Leary, Sonny Freeman shuffle, a double shuffle, like the drummers on a Little Walter record. Well, now, yeah, that's not happening anymore. They got it. So I just want to say thumbs up, Europe.
Great. Right. Well, I think we'll stop there.
Okay. Can we say, please pick up my record?
You can say anything, yes.
Produced and directed and by yours truly with the best musicians possible, all of them great people. And it's not an AI, by the way. And it's live and in person, blood, sweat, and tears. You know, it was a long night. So please, Legacy Rewind, it's coming out on April 17th. Please make me rich and famous so I can Learjet to Scotland. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.